Hi, this is Lyle Sopel. I'm a jade and gemstone artist, and I'm here live at my studio in Vancouver, and here to show you my process. I'm involved in a number of different gemstone sculptures, and I've got an ongoing project that I've been working on through the last couple of weeks during these live Facebook sessions. So I want to show you how it's been progressing and what's been happening with it over the last week. I can tell you for sure that having to stay up to these weekly broadcasts here, you make me work hard because I have to make sure that there's another segment of this process to show you next time I come around. But I'm making great progress with this eagle and totem piece, and I'm at a point where I'm going to be detailing the bird at this point, and so I want to show you what that is and how I'm going to do it. So let's start with that today, and I'm going to pass my phone over to Curtis where he can show you the process while I work. Hang on one sec. Okay, so here's the eagle as it is right now. So what I've done is I've gone over the whole surface. I've put in all the feathers as a bulk. I mean, laid them all in, sanded them all down, laid them all in, and I can tell you, there's a lot of feathers in an eagle. And even though this isn't an example of a live eagle, it's some sort of an abstraction of the bird, and it's kind of my style, how I approach different subjects. And I think I prefer that rather than to actually do a live representation or an exact copy of an eagle. So that way I can get like a lot of a more emotional impact to what the piece is. And so as you can see, everything is laid out and it's smoothed up. Now what I mean by that is I mean that I've taken out all the grinder marks that were there and made the feathers smooth and straight. And so let me just show you here how I do that. I use this tool. This is an air tool, and it's got a little rubber disc on the end with a Velcro, and I use these diamond pads that I cut out. I buy it as a big sheet, and I cut them out and put them on there, and just stick them on. And I'll show you how this actually works. It's a great tool. It's really good for doing flat surfaces. Let me turn it on here. And this is kind of what it does. This is a 400 grit diamond, so I started with 160 grit or 120 grit diamond. So I go right from the diamond tool grinding to the 120 grit sanding, and then to the 400 grit. So the 400 grit is really a medium type of grit, and it smooths the surface well enough for me to do the next process. So I've gone all over the whole thing and I've got it pretty smooth, and then the next thing I'll do is going to detail the feathers. Now this is the tool I use. It's a Xian from Korea, and it's a really good tool. It's very sturdy, and it's a new thing. I've used an American or a Japanese tool before. I didn't like it as much as this one. It's really a bit more aggressive. It's a dental mechanics tool. They use these in dental mechanics for teeth and so on, but it really works well for sculpture too. So I'm going to turn that on and show you how I'm going to do the detailing of the feathers.
Louis asks, you don't use water when sanding jade?
That's a really good question, because sometimes I do. Most of the time, most processes I use water. But in this case where there's a lot of detail, I can work dry, and that allows me to see the surface. If I add water to this, then it really makes it complicated to see the surface. So jade will cut fine if you're not too aggressive with the tool. So like in this case, I'm going to show you. This is I work it dry, and normally I have a vent here that's going to suck all the dust away. But in this case, we're just going to do demonstration. So this is a 100 grit diamond point on this tool, and I just start this way. Pneumatic. Okay, so that's one feather, and then I just keep going over, and I do the whole set. Okay, so that's 2 feathers and only 1,000 more to go. So it's quite a bit of. I'm going to do the whole surface now, both sides, the top wings and the bottom wings, and then what I do is I sandblast the surface. I sandblast it so it all brings it up to a 400 grit surface, and so that's kind of like just above a medium grinding surface, and then I'll sand it some more, and then I'll polish it, and we'll get something really beautiful out of that. So you can see that the head now has some more detail, and so it's going along really well. Still delicate, and something I have to always be careful of when I work on it. I bring myself to the point of view where I can really focus on it. Okay.
Louise says, I have some jade that turned white when I sanded it dry. What could be the reason for this?
Okay, that's what's happening is it's burning. So burning means that it's actually cracking below the surface of the jade, and you're going to have to go at it again with a coarser grit of some kind, a grinder or a coarser sander, to remove that surface. So that's actually damaged the surface of the stone. So you grind that away. Start again. Use some water, or don't use a tool that runs so quickly. If a tool is running too fast, the friction builds and it's going to heat more often. But on these fine things, these fine tools, the stone doesn't necessarily heat up that much and crack, just as long as I'm careful with it. Okay, so I want to walk over to the other aspect of this piece I've been working on now, and I'm going to stand it up and I'll show you what I've been thinking. So this is the base for the totem, or the eagle, and as you can see, I've just roughly cut out some abalone. Now, in native design, they often use abalone as part of the jewelry design that they do with silver work or some other kind of black stone that they use. So when I originally thought of this idea, I had some abalone that I thought would be really very kind of cool to use in the eyes, just to liven up the look of the totem, because it is kind of an even color. So, you know, being a gemstone artist, I really like to add as much color and pizzazz as I can while I'm working on pieces. So I thought this would be maybe a nice add too, but I've just got it stuck on there with a plaster scene so it sticks, so I can have a look at what it might look like. When the eagle's on top, it's going to be shiny, and I thought I might add diamonds for the eyes on the eagle as well, so that would add to the overall effect of this, so we have the two eyes are very apparent. So here's a fun question. Give me your opinion. What do you think? Abalone eyes or no abalone eyes? I'd like to hear what you think. So next I want to show you some of my other projects that I have on the go. And I have quite a few projects on the go, and the reason that I like to have many projects is that it keeps me inspired. Like the more things I have on the go, the more active my imagination seems to be. And that's the way I like to live. Like always have lots of activity in my studio, lots of different things going on. And it just kind of keeps my energy high, and it keeps me really engaged with the different projects and different ideas. So I've got right now, I've got 3 projects that I'm working on in the studio. I have 3 commissions that are being waited, they're waiting for me, and a show that's coming up at the end of January. So it's like I got lots of stuff that I process all the time, and I find it's really good for me. Like that's how I like to work, just to stay active mentally about the process. So over here, I've got a piece. I started with some drawings for a client that wanted a Japanese crane, and so I thought I'd just sort of do a little demonstration here for myself and work out what this might look like before I did the original one, the next one anyway, because the next one I'm going to do is going to be much more complicated than this. Now, let's see if I can find that hole there. There we are. So I'm just going to set it up together, and you can see that it has nice little legs, and what we've got here is a little sleeve, because when we put this together, I want to be able to take those legs off the piece when we ship it. And so a Japanese crane has a white head top and also a little red on the top as well. So that's going to be added to this piece. So it's a multi-piece, multicolored piece. And this is Italian marble. It's black jade, jadeite, red coral. Yeah, okay, so you like the contrast to the abalone eyes, well that's kind of cool. And yeah, they do bring the thing together in some way, Aaron. I think I like your comment there about it does add a little bit more. So this is really, I'm just sharing my process because this is really what happens every day for me. It's like I get involved with a piece and I don't necessarily start with a totally finished concept. I start with a process or an idea, and then it's a process on how it works through the studio. So ideas come as I work, and I think that's really the best way for me, that I have lots of different ideas as I go through the process. I think that the creative ideas come as I work, rather than the creative ideas come and then I bring them to the studio. It's all happening here and now with the stuff. So I guess the biggest thing is to say, when is it over? When do I finish? Because sometimes when a piece is completely done and mounted and put together and all that, I still like to take it back to the studio and adjust it accordingly. So I try not to do that too often. But again, here is another part of this piece. It's a citrine base that will complement this piece. So I'm going to have the bird flying over the top of it. So that's kind of how it's going to be at this point. Now, if you follow me, I want to take you into one more aspect of the studio here, the very beginnings of the piece. Now, right here, I often do drawings for just sketch out ideas, but when I'm thinking and planning of sculptures, I like to set out a variety of stones. I have a workroom that I set especially aside for that, where I bring out all the stones that I might want to work with, and then see how they might work together. And I don't necessarily have a set idea or a plan involved when I start that idea, that process. I just kind of let the imaginative part of me flow in this beginning thing. And so in this case, this is lapis lazuli and it's quartz crystal. And so I wanted to do a kingfisher, but the kingfisher has to have wings and I just can't get it. I only have what I have as far as the lapis goes. This is my last piece and I wanted it to be a winged piece. So I know how to put the wings in as a separate form, and I'm going to do that with this piece, and I'll just show you how how I did it. This is one solid piece, and so I cut it through the middle, and then I cut it like this. And so eventually, I'm going to carve it and then fit the two wings on, like so. So you can, there you go, you can see that it's a bird. And then this is the quartz, and it's going to be carved maybe with two pieces, and then eventually we're going to have the bird something like this. And my idea is to carve the quartz so it looks like water, and in behind the quartz I'm going to carve the fish in relief in the quartz, so it'll look like the bird is chasing the fish in the quartz. So that's the beginnings. So along with that, there's going to be another base of some sort here. But follow me along to this part of the studio here. So if you have any questions on my process, let me see if I can get to them. So a lot of the questions are about, the process, and I think what I wanted to really share is today anyway, is I really wanted to share the ideas of how these sculptures come about. And so the main thing is that they are things that happen while I'm in the process, I'm in the creative process, and I think that's a really a big part of my process, is to have a lot of activity. But another thing that I wanted to actually emphasize in the studio here today, why I'm doing this Facebook Live, is because when I started working with Jay, there was nobody that I could turn to ask questions about the process and where would I go with the ideas that I had and so on. It was a really long road to learn how to do the things that I do. And I feel like if I had something like this when I was beginning or involved in my creative aspect a few years ago, then I would have just died and gone to heaven. It would have been fantastic. So that's what I want to share, is like through my experience, share in some way that I could benefit the jades or gemstone sculpting community. So make it a higher art form in some way. Yeah, so we have another question here.
Aaron Brown asks, what number grit do you use initially and your feather detail? Thanks.
So what do I start with the feathers is, it's the diamond tool that I use is 100 grit. But I use that to actually sculpt the feathers as well, 100 grit. And then I go from the 100 grit to 120 diamond paper, sandpaper. And then after that, I use a 400 grit diamond. And after that, again, I'm going to use a 500 or a 600 grit. Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, thanks everybody for their enthusiasm and their compliments over the last few days and weeks while I've been doing this. I really appreciate it. It's great to be able to share this with you. We have a little giveaway that I want to introduce to you right now, and I will bring it up here. So this is it's a framed print of one of my sculptures, and it's 8 by 12. And we'd like to give this away to anybody that wants to participate in our giveaway. So after this live, you can look for the post and participate in the activity, and we'll do a draw, and the winner of the draw will get this nice print that you could hang on your wall. You can get signed. Let's see the back, so you can hang. Okay. So feel free to give me any more questions that you might have over the next short while, and if I can answer them, I will certainly get to them. And so the next live Facebook that I'm going to do will be on January the 5th. So we're going to take a little bit of break over the Christmas holiday and New Year. So we're back in the studio after January the 5th, and I look forward to seeing you all then. So thanks again for partaking in this activity in the studio, and we'll see you in the new year. So happy holidays.